Hi, good evening. A quick random screencast about the focused on the move of Turkey away from NATO alliance and away from the application to membership in the European Union, which is where I think this is moving. So there is a Geo Chart. There was a huge demonstration in Ankara yesterday, and let's just look at the trends and what's been happening, and where this is, where the natural course of this leads to things. So uh, there's a geo chart. Sometimes I dial Pluto on the top. This isn't about that. This is just about a fair and equal Aries rising chart where everything is in its archetypal position. I could also use the draconic chart, since I tend to start around a node for things like this. For looking at what's in the news this week, last week, and what's all that about. You know, say near present past. Is this is more suitable than a draconic for that. It's also more suitable than a Pluto chart. Anyway, a standard tropical chart for an almost random time. Uh, it's not really evening. It's kind of evening, 1800 hours. The moon position, it's late in the sign. It's not too late, but I can summarize a little something before it gets unstable in the latter degrees. Um, the moon position or the time also affects the absolute positions of Mercury and Venus, of course, most blatantly. And I'm kind of glad I'm catching it before this connection to the node. So, looking at this, what we see here is Mercury coming in contact with the node on the 13th degree of Virgo, where, let's just set a note for this, where there is of course some imagery for Virgo. Virgo 13 is somebody with a very clear idea and a refined understanding, symbolized by the hat and the dress and the shoes and the definition of the person. There's this long table where everybody, these four people, four quadrants of the world, four world religions and whatnot, as a figure of the whole, kind of unaware, surprised, maybe not retarded, but just uninformed about what this guy's vision here is really. Clearly, he's got something in mind. He's made some sort of breakthrough insight. He's got some power, whatever he knocks on the table. And that is, what we have here. And this is happening on the nodal axis, on the upward draft. So something that's worked through from the south node, gone to the very depth, with anti-Lilith, had time to mature and bubble up, comes in the news, and what it's about last night doesn't matter. Day before, in the recent days with the moon evolving this, we've had these Turkey, Erdogan meets Putin. Erdogan has a huge demo, moves away from, starts looking east rather than west officially, right? This has all been brewing. We had this attempted coup that some people trace back to, friendly party and forming Erdogan, and this and that was going on, and happening to have some lists of people. So he wound up saying, "Wait a second, I've been infiltrated, and I'm doing these these moves which look horrible." But there hasn't really been any evil around what he's doing. It looks weird. It reminds you of the Reichstag fire, which was intentional, and this thing may very well have been the most incompetent coup attempt ever premature, trying to save somebody's skin or bring something to pass before the election because the outcome is somewhat uncertain for some people. Anyway, some clear idea has taken form, was communicated, and Jupiter, on the larger friendly party alliances, has already gone past this point, knows about it, understands what's going on, is, you know, leaving. It's the last of the classical planets. So you could say Jupiter is void of course, and that happens when the idea is made, right? The dice have been cast, the void has been entered, the gestation period completes before, as it transitions here on the Eki point, which is the scale, the scales tip as Jupiter transitions into the darker half of, okay, we are realigning the everyday business of running the state on the global sphere. And that's this coming realignment, and with the node present is one of of huge significance. This thing moves around in 18 years. This thing moves around in 12, and they're just shaking hands here. So if this would be appropriate for a harmonious ending of a long time alliance, like this thing with NATO, which went on since the 50s. It's also an individualization point. See, Mercury and Venus are never far away from the Sun, and Mercury has this. Mercury is making facts here. He's got a dual nature. All these things have a dual nature, none more prominent as Mercury, who's the fact maker. He, let's say, collapses the wave function. He takes a potential, a brain potential, and acts it out. He takes a circumstance and turns it into an interpretation. He takes a hunch and writes books about it. He makes facts. He's the newsmaker. He's the thief of potentials by nailing them down. He's the rascally observer who takes note of things that happen, and or the Buddha mind, which allows all these potentials and is able to view all the potentials as potentials without necessarily having it in him to intervene, nail anything down, turn perceptions into accusations or facts, right? So there are these two extremes: the perception of potentialities that is on the global scale, then turned into facts, and that, of course, happened once Venus got a little dose of objectivity again, right? She tends to go a little bit on the large scale. The media sometimes gets a little horary, and at no time more so than when the male signs are driving Venus. So in the female signs, Venus tends to be more objective, and no more so than in the sign of her undoing, if you will, undoes the acidic tendencies. And the whole thing is also about the peak. Look at this, the center, yesterday, day before, preparing for this rally. This is about the peak nationalism, peak individuality, in the sense that, yes, nations have boundaries, nations have leonine sovereignty, they can act out and look, and they have their people that cheer them and other people that boo them. It's a whole regular stage drama, and demonstrations or large rallies by state leaders is the essence of this sort of drama on a large scale. So it looks a little, it all looks a little Hitlerian, but you got to understand that that's a very popular guy in these culture groups, they don't really mean any harm. Um, if you press them individually, they only get stupid in groups. But that's a human thing, not a culture thing, and there's no war of cultures or anything like that, because humans are not archetypes. Again, anyway, moving right along, peak individuality, right? Peak realization and expression with the guy who hits on the table. Here's that brilliant picture again, right? Waking up the troops. And oops, I don't really want you to see names. Oh shit, do I edit this? Opposite peak individualization, we have peak collectivization, right? Getting lost in the past, the obligation of unfinished business. Happening, as it's happening, to be chasing the peak collectivizer, the ocean, the thing that mixes everything from with oxygen to no oxygen, where life is found on all levels. However, below the surface, right? The non-individuated, the the air and the sphere of individual reason, or the solar logos. It is not really something you see through the fog, implied by the Neptunian layer. So that the south node literally is chasing that, and the in this process we'll see this Jupiter transition into Leo. We'll see the south node catch up with Neptune, have a glorious weird Newsday conjunction. Speaking of Newsdays and lunar points like the nodes, the apex, the highest point of the lunar orbit being over here in Scorpio, where things that have to be said about collective agreements in the social quadrant. Yeah, collective agreements in the social quadrants, those are interstate things. Over here, Aquarius, the point of Earth, that's structural agreements between nation states. So related, yes, there's friends conspiring, friends having secret deals, discovering mutual interests, optimal trade routes, that sort of thing. And here is the playing out of this on the world level, where okay, now we make some rules for everybody, and there's the tension between the friends and the national good, if you will, and the identity. Identity gets lost in oppositions in various ways, and no more so than when the loss of identity is symbolized here, not just by Pisces, but by Pisces ruler coming with the loss of future potential due to backlog, say. No, this is the dissolving corner, and over here, Mrs. Co-ruler, co-ruler of Pisces and dissolution, with her co-ruler of Neptune. There's three rulers, isn't it? There's Pisces, there's Neptune, Jupiter, and Venus that we consider. Consider a bunch of other signs in relation, but these are the three rulers of Pisces, and Pisces is the sign with the most rulers, if you will, or relevant related planets that carry some of this, and two of these are purging themselves of the individual of the collectivizing, and are polarizing. We all go back and forth on their individualizing cycles. So this whole corner, if you will, the karma corner of the world at large, seeing some house cleaning, right? We could trace this house cleaning just a little more for fun. Let's go back to the start of the decan and say, okay, we could now just tell a story. These are crops from the full irregular proportioned images I've posted at degrees.michaelax.com. So in this crop, which makes a postcard, which makes 360 postcards, which makes something that is way too large to put in a shoebox. Anyway, in this postcard, we see this wise guy. They've climbed on a hill together to look in a really distant, explaining, oh, we've climbed on this hill, and now from up here you can see this goal we've been striving for, and that's what's going on. And Doofus, looking here with his glasses, is in the process of seeing the far thing, right? So there is a laser and a light bulb trailing behind, illuminating a distant corner, or finding the light that was already there and realizing, wait a second, I see some connections. That's what's going to happen to Doofus here. So there has been benevolent cooperation about future goals, future directions, in an otherwise cliffy and hard to see through landscape, right? If you're in any of these valleys, if you're over here in this valley, you're not going to see what's in that valley. It's all very sign-like. The idea with these images that they are not symbolic, that they are decipherable signs. So these two are now making the first steps. They're stepping out. They're trying to find their way into a new relationship. And these two from before on the hill, they have now become this guy, and we see that they're now appearing on a stage. They got the spotlight, and in the background, feminine looking character is cheering the whole thing. So you could say, oh well, here we had Russia informing Ankara about a few things that helped them stop the coup, make some notes, right? Erdogan suddenly gets smart, talks to fewer religious people, and actually maybe starts refining his demands for power, or his capability. I haven't looked at his chart. His capability for stewardship. Anyway, so somebody gets clued in, totally transitioned. Now the clued in, the trained actor, or insecure trained actor, takes his first step. You see the hands are all, it's all pretty messy, while being at least positively looked at by somebody else playing in front of an audience. So a marriage happens, right? So these two guys got tested and saying, okay, Erdogan flies, meets Putin, and they make some plans for the future, and those plans are saying, oh, wait a second, look at the puzzle of the world map. Doesn't it make more sense if NATO, makes a little arc over there, and the other people make an arc over here? So there is, so you have Iran, you have Syria, these people are not natural enemies, right? So you have all these people looking in benevolently, and alliances happen. Be that Iran, Syria, be that Turkey, Syria, Russia. Mix them up as you will. Mix in Israel, because they're they're still more Middle East and African nations. Anyway, so these guys, make a union. Some insight is born, or a child is born. Insight is born, is carried to maturity, and boom, enters a stage and says, listen, this is what's going on, and here we've got the four corners of the world that hear the news, and they're saying, oh, we had no idea. What are you talking about? What's going on? Right? They're not really fully capable participants at this point. They're maybe a little shocked, at the energy bursting force and grounding, and saying, we've carried this anger in our back, and now it's coming out. We're not going to compromise. So there's an uncompromisingness of a place in power that we got. Uh, ah, that we got here. So that's where now the node's going to move in reverse. The cool thing is that it gets, one's clockwise, one's counterclockwise, one's clockwise, one's counterclockwise, and when these themes meet, shit happens. So let's just look to the end of the deacon, and out of this, a new saleable product is formed. Say, oh well, Silk Road, well, China, Turkey, Iran, all these other stans. Here's the shocked Western customer who says, "My God, you can get this to me by train and without war." And look at the nuances. We had never seen this. Or you could say, well, there is, Mr. Putin smiling as the store owner realizes that, hey, I got stuff for a greater market. Who knows? But there is now out of the born realization that was demonstrated, something practical arises, and you see no more. You see some of doofus. You see of a different one. You see some of this maturity carrying forward. Maybe some of this immaturity carried forward and is now saying, "Oh, look, I already get it. Isn't that cool?" So something new is brought to the sale here. Out of this, then we make another phase jump. We get the reason why, and this is the next deacon, but it's in a way an octave, or it finishes the group of 6. It's the next seed, if you will, is the descent of memories past, to realize the past, the reasons of the past. Why are we doing this? And this why are we doing this is the key here for individuality, right? On the earth, bound in collective agreements, we are realigning, right? And we are, with the media, say intellectual media, with the internal politics, with the propaganda. This is the sign of accountants and actuaries, people. This is boring. This is boring, a little neurotic, not very intellectual. Pragmatic, house cleaning, practical living without splitting off and intellectualizing about it. This is intellectualizing while living. Right? So the moon brought this forward, goes here to Mr. X-ray vision. Let me just show you that, what the moon will is insisting on bringing to the forefront. Oops, the daisy, that would be Scorpio. 9. It's the X-ray vision. It comes out of, there is, out of the night, 2 snakes meet and say, wow, we are pretty attractive to one another, right? The dark politics. And now out of this, let's really explore our potentials and see where that's going. And, oh my God, and we got brotherhood. This is symbolically Jesus at the Last Supper. We saved on a few of the apostles, but you get the idea of a Trinity and a fourth, the happening. And this brotherhood of equals is a nice underwriter for the stuff I was babbling about in this section over here. Timing-wise, since we're looking at the geopolitical thing happening, we had Mars. Mars is fresh out of Scorpio. It's just a break in the terror. Terror is gonna get a new, harsher, scarier tone as these two clash. But it's all just theater. This guy moved back, got in here, and we had Black Lives Matter and demonstrations and people getting shot. we had some pre-shadowing of the election, and he's done with that, and he's now gonna go. It's gonna play for real. Like Mars extends for real into the Saturnine. Saturn's a 5, Jupiter's a 4. You know, into this, encounters the limiting purpose. Right? Things have a function, structures have a function, and Saturn in this position acts a little bit like an enforcer of the collectivization and the international bodies. So there's going to be hard limits put on this future-looking Mars period, right? Mars sees itself, has the visions. This is a very cool phase transition. Mars coming out of Scorpio 30, right, where we have the masked ball, where an actual murder happened by a guy dressed like a pig, and nobody really gets it. These are all the dressed up doofuses, and somebody commits a coup, attempts to, and really people don't quite get it. It never gets resolved, and phase transition happens out of the anaretic degree, and we wind up with Mars in the new sign, and somebody utterly oblivious to whatever happened on the way up, just happy to be here and say, okay, we've got it, and we know we can land on the moon. We've climbed this mountain, we've planted our flag. Right? Flags, they're just people labeling things, so they don't have any labels in here, they're just wavy things. But we planned our, we look ahead, we planned our on the moon. So all this boisterously fresh energy that Mars gets here found its form on the personal, non-ambitious social level. It's before this transition, it's before this encounter, and is, going to hit this. All under the watchful eye, if you will, Pluto being the highest, more or less, I think. In the chart, Pluto, Saturn, very much the highest points in this tropical, classical perspective. Saturn, Pluto, Neptune, Uranus being in retrograde mode, meaning that the powers that be are not moving forward with plans. They are saying, hey, or if they try to move forward with plans, it's gonna simply backfire because the ocean's moving another way. The accompanying symphony of the mind of God, which we astrologers have the privilege of studying. See what His will that's going to be done is, particularly concerned with. This whole thing, squarish to the nodal axis that we have to challenge, spell out another way. This harmony is this harmonious relationship we had for a long time. Never mind about Neptune, but he's collectivizing and would like to be a harmonious relationship with Pluto again. So that's about it. These particulars, Jupiter void, quote unquote. Oh yeah, the inconjunct. Could not forget the 5th house inconjunct here. That gives you an idea of what catches my eye as an astrologer, how you break this down, how you tell stories without stealing too many facts. Let yourself be guided by the facts until the whole thing comes round, and then you sleep about it for a day. You think about it for a day, sleep on it, and then you think about it on a more logical or technical level. There are these oodles of display modes you can do, and you can split hairs to no end. But to approach the gestalt of a geo chart, or to check the sanity of the news, is today's news fabricated? Well, if it's not in line with the larger themes, well, you can discount it, and if it's in line with the larger themes, you can bookmark it. Something like that. I hope you enjoyed. learn something and, you know, keep learning. Give me some feedback. Thanks.